Arsenal fan in me, who has seen that those last before Arteta, those years before Arteta, where you've been
Yeah,
nowhere close to competing, right? You've had that one season where you were second and you fell short to Leicester in that season. So you were nowhere
yeah,
close to competing. So you at that time as the fan, you were saying, यार हमें at least compete तो कराओ. ये top 4, top 5 वाला क्या scene है? फिर ये जनाब आए and he started making you compete. But now the dilemma is this: that me, the Arsenal fan, who's joined that team because of what Wenger used to do, how they used to play, I don't see any shades of those past teams because he's changed it completely. So the dilemma for me as a fan is: do I still chase that want of beautiful football, or do I want my team to be competitive, playing top one, top two, competing for the title wherever you go into play? And that you can't take away from Mikel Arteta. You reach semi-finals of the Champions League. You've been coming second in the Premier League, so which means you're of course there. You're competing for it. बट वो ये सर, मैं आपको सच मोटी मोटी बात बताऊं, मेरे को मैच देखने का मन नहीं करता. आप लिवरपूल की बात कर रहे हो, मैं 10 मिनट मैच देखता हूँ, वो ये साइड, वो साइड, ये साइड, वो साइड, वो पीछे, ये वो, एंड मे बी इट्स मॉडर्न डे फुटबॉल, आई डोंट नो. But I just don't enjoy watching them play at all. In fact, I was talking to another Arsenal fan. He told me, "Yeah, start watching the ladies' team play. They're playing much more expansive football, and the women's team is really picking up and all." I'm like, "Sahi hai, wo dekhenge." But sir, not at all. As a coach, Floyd, is it just what is it a case of being too cautious, being too controlling, and no one goes out of that plan? Is it that sort of a scene? Because before with Wenger, it was, here is the thing. Now go do what you have to do.
see, as a coach, for me, I'm very fascinated by the way Arteta goes about doing his things because he's a good coach. To be honest, from where he started with Arsenal to where he is now, there's a big
Yeah.
there's a big evolution in how they are as a club and where they are at the moment and where their stature lies.
Yeah.
But in terms of what Arsenal means, you have the phrase the Arsenal way. But I think that has kind of been lost in translation, and it's not just you that's now off late. I think this season is the first time that I've heard ex-players talking about it. I heard Freddie Lundberg the other day talk about it.
Yes.
I heard Emmanuel Petit talk about it. I heard Thierry Henry talk about it. I've heard the Arsenal captain, the defender.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Tony
him
Adams.
talking
Sol
about
Campbell.
it. Tony Adams, yes. No, Tony Adams talk about it with respect
And then
to
Peter
the
Schmeichel also
captaincy.
said it right now after the Liverpool game.
Exactly. And so it's not just Liverpool player and legend JB Carragher talking about it, because it was at one point of time, it's just him talking about it. It's now everyone else has taken notice. It's not about it's good that what he's doing as far as building a team is concerned, and we'll go through each and every season as to what he's done and how he's evolved. But in the end, it's about winning trophies. In the end, it's about what have you achieved at the end of the year. You ask a coach like me, are you enjoying this evolution? I said, yeah, it's they're competing. They finished second for 3 times in a row. They are one of the contenders to win the Champions League. They are one of the contenders to win the Premier League. For sure, they're one of the contenders to win a trophy this season, be it a cup. So that's definitely there. But if you ask a fan like you, or if you ask maybe 100 fans, they'll say, you play any style that you want, you give me a trophy. There are comparisons, like he's gone from a Pep Guardiola to Jose Mourinho. The only difference between Jose Mourinho and Arteta was Jose Mourinho won things in his entire career. So nobody is going to say that he plays a defensive style. All this has come up off late in the last maybe 3 to 4 seasons where he's not able to win things. So that's where the difference lies between Arteta and his comparisons with either Pep or Jose. And the other thing which throws everything off, and we are not going into the tactics, we're not going into the evolution of Arsenal, is you get to know a lot about the coach and how he interacts with the media. The likes of Jurgen Klopp, the likes of Pep Guardiola, the likes of Arne Slot, the likes of Thomas Frank. I don't know why, but Arteta kind of at times hits himself on his own foot when he talks to the media at times, especially when his back is against the wall. Quotes like like this, saying that we had the most number of points for the last 3 seasons. So what? I mean, what are you trying to say? I mean, does that give you a trophy? Then
So then, what do
a
you
lot
make
of
of
things
this
that he
one,
said
sir?
even
What do you make of this one, sir?
I have a lot of Arsenal fans as friends as well, and I saved this as soon as I saw this quote online, and I said this is going to age really well. When I saw the first game of the season, and every time after the Man United game, I send this to my Arsenal friends saying this is what Arteta said. I'm just reminding you because he was absolutely dominated. He was left 1v1 with Matthias Villit, and Villit destroyed him.
Hmm.
The only time he got a little bit of leeway was when he played against Leeds. And then he went one on one with Konate, and Konate destroyed him. He
Yeah,
didn't dare
Konate took him
go
on.
close
Yeah.
to Virgil van Dijk. So it's comments like these, and then he's a very innovative coach. There are videos of him, playing "You'll Never Walk Alone" before the game against Anfield, but then the result doesn't go along with what happened. So all these kind of things then come up if the results don't go your way. Imagine him winning a Champions League and a Premier League. Nobody talks about all this, in the back. But then if you don't win, and like Thierry Henry said as well in your previous
Yeah.
quote, you're building, but how tall is that building right now? And he compared it with the Manchester United of now that have been to five finals in this phase of their tenure. Uh,
Hmm.
Even they have been to five finals, whereas Arsenal have not even been to one. So the voices are starting to come out gradually, and when it comes out from ex-players, that now the pressure is really on you, to
Yeah, sure. A lot of majority of the fans would sort of say, okay, whatever you're doing, आप trophy ला रहे हो, मैं खुश हूँ. I want to say I'm not that kind of a guy. I want to say that I used to genuinely enjoy watching Arsenal play. There was a certain joy that used to come from watching them play. अब end of the season में वो जाके trophy उठाए ना उठाए, that had nothing to do with me watching the team play. That for me has been the biggest disappointment, Richard, is that I don't feel like tuning in to watch the team play. I get so many calls from other friends, like Floyd has friends. Oh, look, they're winning. Oh, look, they're second. Oh, look, they're top of the table. Oh, look. But I don't want to tune in, sir. And part of it is probably because I'm in that stage of life. बहुत सारी चीजें चल रही हैं जिंदगी में ये वो आचा पाचा चल रहा है sure. But there is, I put it on also for 5-7 minutes. Case in point, that game versus Liverpool. Sure, that was a good strategy to go and play Liverpool at Anfield, play that strategy. You were on top for large parts in that game. So you would not say that you were dominating that game or anything, but you were, whatever it was doing was happening. But I didn't enjoy it, sir. There was nothing to
Yeah.
watch. How do you handle this, Richard? Because see, that's my thing, the dilemma. Play good football or go for trophy. दोनों एक साथ नहीं होंगे जी.
नहीं, पर बात यही है कि आप फैन कब बने आर्सेनल का. आई थिंक ऑल ऑफ अस व्हेन प्रीमियर लीग फर्स्ट केम इन एंड ऑल ऑफ अस फर्स्ट स्टार्टेड वाचिंग फुटबॉल, आर्सेनल द आइडेंटिटी, द कॉम्बिनेशन प्ले, दिस इंडिविजुअल फ्लेयर, द फ्रेंच प्रेजेंस, ये वो जो भी था, इट वाज समथिंग. मैं कोई प्रीमियर लीग का मेरा कुछ एफिलिएशन नहीं है. आई एम नॉट अ फैन ऑफ एनी ऑफ द क्लब्स, बट आर्सेनल वाज द टीम यू वुड वॉच ग्रोइंग अप.
Yes.
When you first got into coaching at the time, मतलब ये अभी कितना 15-18 साल पहले की बात है, but combination play, third man runs, before Guardiola's era came in, all coaching courses had this stack of Arsenal clips from that era. Look at Henry coming out to the left, Bergkamp क्या करता है, Perez ये वो. I mean, it was a huge presence, and Arteta, I think largely as a fan, I'm just guessing because I'm not a fan, but neither of Arteta or Arsenal. But this whole thing of him coming in from 3.5 years of being under Guardiola, Spanish hai, club captain reh chuka hai. He lives and breathes the Arsenal identity. He'll bring Guardiola's positional play along with Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal's old attacking aggression and the sort of flair that they displayed, individual expression, whatever was stacked up in you as a kid. And that is what made you a fan. अभी वो दिख रहा है नहीं दिख रहा है, I think that is one factor you should keep aside. But if you just look at Arteta's evolution in terms of how high a line they play, the sort of chances that they create from a high press, how much they control the opponents, the amount of overloads that they negate, the set piece chances that they work towards, the set piece itself being a cheat code in the armory. it's not good to watch at all. Matlab, but finishing second in the Premier League consistently also is something that is really difficult. And despite बोलोगे कि ठीक है इतना खर्च किया है, the I think this table that has popped up with the possession and XG and things like that, these are not easy things to do based on where they end up finishing the table, because there's Spurs over there also at number 3, and we know where they ended up. So
Yeah.
all of these factors is one thing you can tell. I mean, like watching a couple of Arsenal games this season and maybe 3-4 seasons ago, it's not like the guy is clueless. कि उसको पता नहीं है करना क्या है. I think there is plenty of clarity in the squad in terms of what goes behind achieving a result. And usually with teams like his or in the Premier League, it comes down to those tiny margins. But you just look at, let's just say that a clear plan folding out, I mean, a clear plan playing out, and tactics that he said that these are the aspects of the game that we will control. You see a lot of that. अगर ये बोल रहा है कि we will occupy the opponent's half, we will play with inverted fullbacks, we will take those risks, the pressing, the containment of the opposition and things like that, that you see plenty on loop. Point is, I think largely what is missing, I think this is something that Emmanuel Petit, I think Floyd had mentioned the old players coming in and saying the good old days are missing. The ability to change the tempo and rhythm of the game is completely gone. मतलब ये desire for control, ball को इधर से उधर जो आप बता रहे थे as a fan you're getting frustrated with. It's not even, you have a big doubt even if the players have a freedom to break away, कि, like take things on and make something out of nothing. In terms of the talent that they have on the pitch, the sort of difference makers that they have on the pitch, it's become way too much about the set pieces. But as a coach, अगर वो काम कर रहा है, results ला रहा है, तो तुम कितना change करोगे? And frustration as a fan also, you should look at what phase in the season is all of this unfolding. Matlab, do you hold on to your place at the top of the table? That's why you might just play it out for a draw when you have a 1-0 win, क्योंकि वो position नहीं छोड़ना है. How deep into the season you are, all of that affects it. और ये जो ingrained trauma जो है या anxiety है Arsenal का कि trophy नहीं आ रहा है, अच्छा खेल रहे हैं, finishing top 2, all this pressure is something that the fans create. And whether you take it as a risk or not, there's a huge legacy that goes behind him as a player representing the club. जो भी अभी पहले describe किया था, coming from Guardiola's shadow, trying to prove himself, pragmatic, Mourinho बन रहा है, ये बन रहा है, पर उसको he wants to get to the title or as close to the title as possible. So in that, I think they've achieved hell of a lot.
Yeah. The graphic that you showed was from the 23-24 season. You know that is the first time. That is the first time in a season that Arsenal's XG, which is expected goals, or any other team's XG, was more than Pep's Manchester City during Pep's time in the Premier League. That was the first time, and yet they finished second. I think 2 points off Manchester City. But prior to this, so we were talking about Pep going for Arteta going from Pep towards Jose Mourinho.
Yes.
Prior to this season, which was the 22-23 season, he signed Zinchenko, he signed Gabriel Jesus from Manchester City. That which clearly showed that this is how I want to play. This is the way I want to play. Like Richard mentioned, the inverted fullback, the false nine of Gabriel Jesus. They spent 248 days, creating overloads, pressing as high as up the pitch is concerned. But two things remained the same, constant with respect to what Pep's team faced as well, except for the title. One was 248 days at the top of the table. Okay, 248 days at the top of the table. Okay, lost out to City eventually 4-1 at the Etihad, which was the defining result, which they finished, second in the table, and they were susceptible to what we see now that Pep's facing, the counter-attacks. And at that point of time, it was okay, Saliba is injured. Okay, Gabriel is injured. Oh, okay, we have Thomas Partey injured. So there was a blame on injuries going on. And you see, ever since that season, okay, the 22-23 season, he's changed. He's flipped the switch. He's gone from Pep Guardiola's shadow to coming towards not Jose Mourinho, but somewhere in the middle. In the way he signed players. You look at the players that they've signed, ever since that window, okay? It's been Declan Rice. You wouldn't say he's a creative player. You would say he's a player that, is a robust player, is a box-to-box player. He's someone of a leader on and off the pitch. Then you have Kai Havertz, who was struggling to
Again,
maybe score
makeshift.
goals at Chelsea.
Makeshift.
Yeah, if today you ask, I'll ask two of you, which is his best position, you won't know, because he till now nobody could say, but
I
it's
know
Kai
best
Havertz.
position. I know best position. Bench.
Bench.
Yeah, sir. क्या बात है, sir?
But I'll ask you another question right now. Would you prefer Kai Havertz or Victor Gyökeres?
Oh, sir, ये बस हो गया ना, सीजन खत्म हो गया हमारा.
That's a more important question. And then in that season, he signs Jurrien Timber. Okay, this is after signing Ben White, after signing Tomiyasu in that position. So, and Jurrien Timber has gone, and he's not the most, you could say, attacking fullback, but he's given you a lot of goals through set plays. A very robust player in that position. And then you go on to this season, you've signed Ricardo Calafiori. After that season, Ricardo Calafiori, another defender,
Yes.
and Mikel Merino. Another player who's he's in the same mold as Declan Rice. You have the whole reason why Zubimendi was signed this year was to release Declan Rice to play his box-to-box ability football, where he could get some goals. But then when you come up against Liverpool, you have the option of playing maybe Eberechi Eze in that position because Odegaard's out. You play two number 8s, which is Mikel and Declan Rice, which is a whole different ball game altogether. That's where you say, you have possession, you're limiting the opposition's chances, you're limiting the opposition's build-up. But when it comes to that final third, to play that final pass, to create that moment of, create that spark, that special moment which will give you the goal, they don't have that. Because Mikel Merino and Declan Rice are two players who are exceptional number 8s. For example, as we speak, Mikel Merino scored a hat-trick last night for Spain.
Yes.
They come off that second line in attack. So as the first attack moves, as the first line of attack moves and it breaks down, they are there in the second line to score the goals. But you cannot have two of them in your team. You need a number 10. You need someone, to be closer to that striker, to be closer to the winger, to unlock that defense before a Mikel Merino or before a Declan Rice exploits that space which has been left by the back four and the opposition midfield. So, and this is the first. So he's been going into that trajectory where we need big, robust players. We need to compete. We need to stop counterattacks happening. We need to slow down the game. We need to control games. But then what happened last season was a lot of red cards, silly red cards for kicking the ball away, silly red cards for not for stopping the restart of play, and it kind of imploded last season. And this season he's gone back to a little bit of that. Okay, now we need creativity in the attacking third, which is where Madueke has come in, which is where Eze has come in. And
Yeah.
I don't know what's the story, but if Kai Havertz wouldn't have got injured and Eze wouldn't have made that call to Mikel Arteta, are you sure that I cannot sign for Arsenal? He would have definitely been a Tottenham player. So did they have that did they have that plan in place to sign Eze in the first place? But now he's come in, and then you get Gyökeres, because for past 2 or 3 seasons, the fans and the pundits have been shouting for a number 9. So now they are in that transition where we have to play with these kind of players. So in this season, or maybe next, which I think he'll be given, if he doesn't find that switch to flip from a team that only just controls game and wins it on set plays to a team that actually starts dominating possession and winning matches the Arsenal way, I think he won't be at the helm for too long.
I think it's a fair point you bring, because I'll tell you why, Richard. Just a final thing on you with Arsenal is that Ajkal, that is my number one problem, and probably I'm preaching to the wrong audience here because I have 2 coaches with me. I feel the game is too controlled, sir. And that's just me. It's subjective. Everyone has different ways of looking at the game. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes. I feel the game is too controlled. Now, what Arteta and his blackboard उसने अपने वहाँ डाला होगा कि अगर मैं पूरे सीजन के दौरान इतना कंट्रोल करूंगा गेम को, इतना मूवमेंट्स कंट्रोल करूंगा, तो I know at the end of the season I'll be thereabouts fighting for the trophy. Then it comes down to winning that 2-game run, 3-game run. वहाँ पे अगर मेरे को 3 पॉइंट मिल गए, वहाँ पे अगर मैं हारा नहीं, then it could be me on top. My point is it really possible? Because the game we love watching, And a game we've seen for so many years, that despite its evolution with technology, despite its evolution with whatever's come in, this game is always won by people who express themselves over the long run. People who express themselves and play with a certain fear of failure. What you see with Arsenal is you see a fear of, I don't know if failure is the right word, or fear of making a mistake. मुझे वो दिखता है कि जी उसको
मैं-
मत लो, काटोगे तो काउंटर पड़ जाएगा, वो अपने बंदे आउट ऑफ पोजीशन है, तो मत जाओ, उसको वापस आ जा, फिर खेल।
तो-
जब तक वो प्रॉपर ओपनिंग नहीं मिलेगी, नहीं घुसने वाला तू। मुझे वो दिख रहा है।
I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at it from a fan perspective. जैसे आपने describe किया कि वो freedom, the ability to express yourself, take those risks, really coming there. और I mean, while Floyd was talking and that previous exchange happened, मैं ये भी सोच रहा था Mourinho comparison is also very unfair. क्योंकि if you remember Mourinho's Chelsea and Inter Milan, वो टीम खतरनाक था भाई, मतलब डर पैदा करता था. You had Drogba, you had John Terry, Petr Cech, Samuel Eto'o, Thiago Motta, all of these guys, Diego Milito and things.
Milito,
That
yeah.
psychological profile of these teams is completely different. I mean, you're not just talking about tactics, parking the bus, pragmatism, being very defensive, cautious and stuff. That team was geared to win at any cost. Don't concede goals. और गंदा खेलते थे भाई, मतलब if you're talking about having an identity, Chelsea never got any other than इनके पास पैसा है, खर्च करते हैं और जीतते हैं सब कुछ. But to even make that work with the right sort of character, मतलब the desire to win, the aggression with which they played, डर लगता था भाई, मतलब जब भी देखते थे, and you could tell they were defensive X, Y and Z, but they were not boring like the way you've described it. यहाँ पे बॉल भी रख रहे हो, इतना सब कुछ हो रहा है, you're not enjoying it as a fan क्योंकि वो दिख रहा नहीं है. I mean, I'm purely going back to that era of Arsene Wenger Highbury वाले days पे हारते भी थे, इतना बुरा नहीं लगता था because they would outplay most of the teams that they took on. I mean, that was
You'd
a big
remember
part
a
of
few
it.
moments from those games. You'd remember moments.
And अभी जीत भी गए, कितना याद रखोगे? I mean, even if they get a trophy, is it going to be memorable for you
No,
or any Arsenal
not
fan
at
for
all.
that matter? So I think I really doubt if the Arsenal leadership board, all of that is concerned too much with all of this. मतलब वेंगर के भी passing years में objective यह था कि Champions League का पैसा लेके आओ, like don't leave the club in the red in terms of financially whatever they were managing. It was a story of economics with the stadium coming up and all of that. Like that's a study in itself in terms of how this man built the club. And I think there's a lot of baat karoge in terms of conservativeness, in terms of having a very measured approach to success. How they define success is also playing a part in terms of what you see on the pitch now. अगर फ्लॉइड ने बोला है कि ये सीजन और अगले सीजन उसका सिक्योर है, कहीं नहीं जाने वाला है, it's also the psyche of the club that is at play. Like if you have a owner like Abramovich, जो ट्रॉफी जीतने के बाद ही भगा देगा अगर कुछ जमा नहीं मिला नहीं, then that creates a different psyche in the decisions you make on the pitch also. So I think it's a very social, cultural dynamic that we are seeing unfold, and this is a 10-15-year-old story. ऐसा नहीं है कि Arteta का problem है, मतलब God knows if he moves on to another club from here, we'll see a totally different persona come through in terms of what happens on the pitch and otherwise. But finishing to second position in terms of how the club measures success, I don't think उधर उनको कुछ उनकी नींद खराब हो रही है कि मस्त नहीं लग रहा है, बोर हो रहे हैं, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. I don't think those conversations are being had in particular because it's, I think, amongst the best attended stadiums in the Premier League, मतलब amongst the highest selling tickets in the Premier League, among the highest priced tickets in the Premier League. So I don't think fans are really turned off to the point where they're not tuning in or showing up at the stadium every week. Culture भी strong है वहाँ पे, ऐसा नहीं है कि गंदा खेलने से लोग आएंगे नहीं, but these are legacies. Multiple generation of families inherit the love for the club, but they're doing ठीक ठाक भाई, मतलब इतना discussion चल रहा है. I don't think it's that horrible in terms of other than that you're not being entertained. I don't see so much of a problem कि it's all gloom and doom, like nowhere close to that.
मैं बस ये एक्चुअली पूछ रहा था, जब आपने हिस्ट्री में कब देखा है किसी टीम ने एक सीजन को, आई एम नॉट सेइंग 1 गेम 2 गेम्स और अ कंपटीशन, एक सीजन को इतने कंट्रोल्ड तरीके से फुटबॉल खेलते हुए उस सीजन को जीता है? मैं तो ये पूछ रहा हूं, जिस भी आप सीजन
Guardiola भाई, सीजन आफ्टर सीजन.
बट सर उसमें भी उसके पास खिलाड़ी ऐसे थे, जब वो आगे एक्सप्रेस करने जाते थे बंदे, so they were better than whoever they were facing at that time.
Yeah, but Arteta might not have the tools in the final third to give them that freedom. Guardiola का philosophy कि आगे तक लेके जाओ, उसके बाद जो करना है करो. But look at the quality of personnel also on the pitch. Maybe that's not a factor that he wants to gamble with. कि once you get to the final third, then lay out all your cards. And बात ये भी करोगे कि फ्लॉइड, लेकिन लिवरपूल का बात देख लो, मतलब मैं फिर से लिवरपूल के कुछ आसपास नहीं हूँ, फैन नहीं हूँ, कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन you can see the thing continuing right from Steven Gerrard days to now in terms of that whole song playing in the stadium, the energy that the club has. With Klopp coming in, there was a little bit. Brendan Rodgers के साथ बुरा नहीं था, मतलब the whole Luis Suarez era, they didn't win anything,
Sturridge
but they weren't a
Suarez,
bad team to
remember.
watch at all, bhaiya, and that hasn't changed much in terms of what you see Liverpool express as a club. You don't get bored with them. Matlab, somewhere or the other, that has sustained throughout, and that is why I think decades of not winning, these guys like Floyd and I think half of my friend circle is locked into Liverpool purely because of that. Na? Characters on the pitch and on the sidelines is what makes the club. अभी हम लोग कितना दूर बैठे हैं, कोई आपस तीनों में कोई प्रीमियर लीग गेम प्ले गया है नहीं गया पता नहीं, लेकिन है ना वो एफिलिएशन,
कनेक्ट है ना सर, कनेक्ट है ना सर,
कनेक्ट है, वही बोल रहा हूँ, पर ये कनेक्ट जो फील्ड पे होता है उसी से ही होगा. हम लोग कहाँ पे पले बड़े हैं, मॉम डैड लेके गए स्टेडियम 5 साल की उम्र में और उधर ही प्यार हो गया.
When you go to Anfield, Richard mentioned about inverted fullbacks. One of the breakout stars for the Arsenal has been Lewis Kelly at left back. He kind of went into that Zinchenko role of getting into midfield when Arsenal had possession and actually creating and standing his own in each and every game, including big games like the Madrids and the PSGs. Including those games, he outshone experienced and much bigger opposition. So why wouldn't you not play him at Anfield? Even when Gabriel got injured or Saliba got injured, he brought in Mosquera. He could have brought in Calafiori as a centre back and brought in Lewis Kelly.
पर सर फिर वो
he could have played as
सलाह के खिलाफ खेल रहे हो आप एक्टिके के खिलाफ खेल रहे हो, वर्ड्स के खिलाफ खेल रहे हो.
So that defines your legacy, right, Arjun? When you have a decision to make,
Yeah.
and you're afraid to play the likes of Eze, you're afraid to play the likes of Lewis Kelly, in your starting 11 at Anfield. I would never see Pep Guardiola do that. No matter where he went, it was the team that he decided would play. The back four could change a little bit, but the front would never change. You would see Haaland play, Mamouche play, Bernardo Silva play, De Bruyne play, irrespective. Similarly to Arne Slot, Florian Wirtz will play wherever he goes, unless he's injured or he's out. Then you would see a 3 midfield of McAllister, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai play together. I don't see them ever playing together for Liverpool unless and until maybe it's 60 or 70 minutes where we want to shut shop. We will never go to Arsenal and play Waturo Endo in midfield. Never.
Yeah.
So, that's not the way we go about it. That is why, you find that connection with your club, and that you would say has stayed right from the days of Steven Gerrard to now, with every coach coming in. So that's what Arteta has to define. At the moment, since he came in 2019 and won that FA Cup in 2020, what is the identity of Arsenal football?
Yeah.
Because when he came in, they were high press, building up from the back, under high pressure, outrunning opposition and scoring goals. But the moment he realized that I cannot beat Man City at their own game, he said, okay, let's try a different tactic. He tried that. They came close. They lost out by 2 points. So ideally, and made a couple of good signings after that, ideally next season should be the season that they break through, when Manchester City had the worst season possible in Premier League. But what happens is Liverpool go on to win the league. So what was the problem then?
अगर आपने ऐसे को भी बोल दिया भाई, अगर पीछे कोई है नहीं, साइड पे जा, फिर साइड पे खेल, फिर वो ऐसे भी खा गया, आप ऐसे को भी खत्म कर दिया आपने. आई अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यू आर सेइंग. ओडेगार्ड, एजे, साका. See, when you have a fully fit lineup, it looks like a good lineup. There's no doubt about it. But you could have the 10 most creative players and very expressive players on the planet. But if the जो चला रहा है वहाँ पे strings, वो उनको कह रहा है कि आपने ऐसे ही करना है, because पूरे हफ्ते आप ऐसे तैयारी करके आए हो. You can't go against the team in that sense. I guess that is where the dilemma will come in eventually for Arsenal. At least that is what I'll be looking at. That when you have a full strength team, what is the kind of football these guys are going to play? Is there going to be a change, or is it still going to be control so that you don't lose? Or is it going to be express and go and get those 3 points, which we used to see with your Henrys and your Bergkamps and your Pires and so on and so forth?